I suppose it was bound to happen sooner or later. All these thousands of miles crisscrossing the country, all alone. Today, I'm going to visit a bordello. Welcome to Miss Hattie's Bordello. And yes, it is a museum. And here's our ticket to get in. Good for $1 in trade for girls, whiskey, or tobacco. On the other side, Miss Hattie's Bordello, San Angelo, Texas.
The building was built in the late 1800s.
Okay.
The jewelry store used to be a saloon. It was founded by the Hattons, Mr. and Miss Hattie. They had gotten a divorce about a year after they got married. So during the settlement, she ended up getting the top portion of the building. After Prohibition came about, the saloon closed down and the bordello came about. There are about 2 women, I believe, that did work here, that their descendants still live in San Angelo and work on the farms and ranches that they own that were given to them by men that came through. The pressed tin ceiling is original. The bed frames are original and the piping in the bathroom is original as well. The linoleum in some of the bedrooms is original too. And Miss Juanita would be considered kind of a hostess. She didn't ever fool around with any of the men. She was just here to perform and entertain, kind of keep them occupied while they waited on their lady of the evening. She did sing and dance, and I like to show people those. This is original as well.
So this was here, this is actually part of this facility? Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
We have people try to buy it all the time.
Does it still work?
It does. But one thing that women would do whenever the days would get kind of slow is they would stand in front of the windows kind of as a form of advertisement.
So there she is trying to drum up business, huh?
Yeah. And this is where they had their meals together. But yes, this was used as a bedroom. Whenever the nights would get busier, they would transform it into a bedroom and do their business in here. The kitchen it's 6 feet by 8 feet. It was mainly only used for like snacks, making tea, making coffee. They didn't ever cook in there because there's no room. And this is the bathroom. This was the first building in San Angelo with running water. And if you look behind you, there's a door with a hole in it. That was a peephole. She would typically direct men that were a little rougher. She didn't want to put them in a bedroom with a girl, so she would typically keep them in here at a discounted price, and they were allowed to peek through. And this is Miss Blue's room. And the reason why she's called Miss Blue is because from everything from the sheets to the linoleum, the color of the walls, everything is blue. That was kind of her theme.
Wow.
The bed frames are original, but the beds aren't. We had to replace them, thank God. She was also very popular for her water favors. Water favors were when a man would ask a woman to how do I put this?
Oh, okay.
And that's why she was gifted the wash tub. This was used for whenever men didn't want to take their boots off. They only washed their sheets about once every other week, so they didn't want to have dirty sheets. So if the men didn't want to take their boots off, they would say, just put them on there and we'll take care of you.
And this is the other side of the peephole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have couples. They'll come in here and lay on the bed while somebody will take a picture of them through the peephole.
And someone had to hightail it out of here in a hurry and left their luggage.
Yeah.
Now, was this legal?
Miss Hattie had connections with the judges, clerks, policemen, all throughout town. So when they would get enough complaints per year, they would come and raid. But the stairs are so loud, you know, they would make it very obvious they were coming in. All the women would have enough time to go through the back door and escape. They would raid the place, say nobody was up here, leave, and then they would come back in. Yeah, it was the Texas Rangers that finally had to cut the line.
Oh, spoiled sports, huh?
Yeah, you can go in here. This is her office and parlor. She was known to have a little black book where she would keep, I guess you'd say, the dirty laundry of the higher superior men that would come in, clerks, judges, police officers. Although we never found the black book, it is said that she had been buried with it, and she was not buried in Texas. She was last seen out of state. This was Miss Evie's parlor. Her bedroom. It used to be a bedroom, but Miss Evie was the only one on record to have ever been fired from Miss Hattie's, and she was fired because she was an alcoholic, and she did not favor alcoholism or alcohol in general. And Miss Evie would hide her liquor in furniture, in couches, and underneath cushions. That's why it took so long for Miss Hattie to find out. And this dollhouse was donated by a tourist that came in and had been inspired by Miss Hattie's. They made it and said, "We've got this, here you go."
Well, this doesn't really represent this house, just a house. Huh?
Right. Some of the things that you'll see, they said they had been inspired by Miss Hattie's. So like the woman with the baby, there was a woman here that did have a baby while she was here. You know, Miss Hattie, that kind of looks familiar to what she's been described to look like. But the rest of it, not so much.
Apparently the police spent some time here then, huh?
And this is Miss Mabel's room. And like I said, she was the only woman that we know of that had conceived a baby boy. Contraceptives weren't popular back in the day, and you know, most of the time they didn't necessarily work. So she ended up getting pregnant, wasn't with his child. One thing that is for sure is whenever she would be working, one of the girls that didn't have business going on would take him in while she did business, and if that wasn't able to happen, then he would have to stay in here. Yeah, people love this hallway. Typically they would gamble for money to pay for the girls. But a lot of times men would come in here just to gamble in general. They wouldn't even see women. Although Miss Hattie hated liquor and men that abused it, she did sell alcohol to the men. And a lot of people asked about the coffin with the man in it. He did not work here. He was not a man that participated with any of the women, although he was a friend of Miss Hattie's. He actually passed away right in front of his building. There was a carriage that was coming through one night, and he had been drunk, and they ran over him. Before he passed away, he said his only request was that they display his body in the Bordello. And this is Miss Kitty's room. The reason why we like to make that joke is because she was very famous with ranchers, farmers. She was very popular with them. She actually was provided 3 different pieces of land by 3 different men. That's why we had to replace the names and stories, and not stories necessarily, but little details that people can pick up on, because we did have some privacy issues where people would come through and then they would want to ask questions, and they would show up to the descendants' houses, and it was a mess. This is Miss Rosie's room. This is my favorite room. Miss Rosie she's the one with, I like to say, the most history. Miss Hattie would make the women go to church every Sunday, which was kind of ironic. She liked for the community to at least have some kind of idea that they were civil women, even though they wore silk and lace and all sorts of nicer clothing. When they would be asked, you know, how do you make so much money, what do you do, they would tell them that they had a degree, and when they would ask what kind of degree, they would use Miss Rosie's because she was the only one out of all 10 women that had one. She graduated with her degree from high school. That's not original, but that is to kind of give you an idea of what it might have looked like. And her room was also attached to, there's a suite right there, but we closed that off. Outside of the windows, there was a catwalk that went over to the building next door, which was also a bordello. And when they were being raided, Miss Blue actually had fallen from the catwalk. But ironically, there was a doctor walking through the alleyway whenever she had fallen, and he decided to help her get fixed up and moved his practice to San Angelo. She was the one that brought in the most money out of all of the women that worked here. Miss Goldie, she had a suite because she did bring in the most profit and because she was the most popular out of all of the women. Miss Goldie she was considered exotic. She had golden hair, bright blue eyes, fair skin, whereas most of the other women were Hispanic, African American. This chest was actually full of medals. Whenever they would come in though, they would leave her medals kind of as like a trophy for her. And there was even a Purple Heart that had been found.
So what happened to those?
We had to do away with them as we did other things that were privacy issues, caused privacy issues. But the last time she was seen after the bordello, she came back whenever the bordello was being shut down, and the last time she was seen, she was selling flowers on Concho. We actually used to let people stay here overnight, but we had to stop doing that because we had some people come in and they wrecked some things that were here that were valuable. We do like to tell people about the tunnels. I don't know if you've heard of it. There's a patio in the back, what used to be just a staircase. It would go staircase right down into, it looked like a storm cellar. You'd open the doors and it would go down into a tunnel. It would connect to the bank, Fort Concho, Concho Confetti Mall, all sorts of places all over town. And they did that for, you know, men that didn't want to be seen walking straight into the bordello. Or whenever they would be raided and they would be chased, you know, they would have to run through the tunnels and figure their way out and get into this. Some people had even been found living down there. So they had to board them up and close them down. We have had a lot of complaints before. Down in the store, you can hear, whenever people walk up the stairs, you can hear people walking because the stairs are really loud and old. But we do have an alarm system, so if there's any motion or anything while nobody is supposed to be up here, it'll go off, and that has gone off before when no one's up here. And we do hear a lot of footsteps coming up and down the stairs without anybody being up here at the doors. And if you look at the ceiling, not so much in here, but in the store, you'll see holes, and we do believe, because it is original ceiling, we haven't changed it, that might have been from gunshots. This would be rung whenever it would be time for another man to go into a room, it would be his service time, whatever. But this one, the men would come in, pay Miss Hattie however much they were going to pay total for their favors, and she would give them so many tokens, and they would take their wooden token to whoever the lady was for the evening, and the lady would, at the end of the pay period, take the coins, gather them, turn them into Miss Hattie, and do an exchange for money.
I'm done with the tour. I'm back in my room. And I have to say, that was a really interesting tour. It was fun to see a little what it looked like to see 50 years from the turn of the century to mid-century and see how out west that, let's face it, in the 1900s, it was still coming off being the Wild West. And to see what a house of ill repute actually looked like. And I felt a little sorry for the young lady that was giving the tour. She did a great job, but it was only the two of us. And I'm sure when you're giving a tour with a dozen people or 20 people, it's a lot different than giving a tour with one man and one young woman having to talk about this type of subject matter. Another funny thing, I was told that the Bordello is owned by the mayor, and the mayor is a woman. So it brings whole new meaning to the title, Madam Mayor. I hope you enjoyed our visit today. As always, I encourage you to leave comments down below. Please like and share the videos, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm Mark with the Average Me channel.